Hi everybody, this is a short video, the title's at the top. This is my top 5 most vital British contributions in World War II. Starting just on the left hand side over here, this image here. In my opinion, in the early part of the war, one of the defining factors. Britain managed to save the vast majority of its army from the jaws of the German army in France at the Battle of Dunkirk. And for me, the Battle of Dunkirk was a vital contribution. If it had not have happened, who knows? Britain may have surrendered, the war may have come to a premature end. As it was, around about 334,000 troops were saved at Dunkirk from the Allied army. You can see a picture here. These guys in here are actually they're actually in the water, some up to their necks, evacuating from the beach onto crafts such as battleships and small ships. The reason this has happened is the Germans have actually surrounded the perimeter at Dunkirk. If you imagine, I'll just draw a little map up here. Top of France, perimeter of Dunkirk. The ships sailing from Britain came this way. Here's Dover over here. Dunkirk's here in the middle there. And the German army has surrounded them from all angles. And the only way for them really to escape was by sea. And as I said, this was a success. 334,000 troops were saved. Yes, France fell into German hands, but the fact the majority of British troops were saved, you have to say, that was vital. Moving down from there, my second key event, and this happened really shortly after the Battle of Dunkirk, was of course the Battle of Britain. The Battle of Britain was vital, in my opinion. If Britain had not prevailed in this battle, then the way would have been sown for Germany to invade Britain, take over Britain, occupy Britain. The United States at that time was not interested in a European war. Russia, of course, had signed a non-aggression pact with Germany. Britain was essentially standing alone. Of course, it did have support from the British Empire. But before Hitler could invade Britain, he obviously had to destroy the RAF. You can see some RAF pilots here scrambling to their planes in the battle. And this was an airborne battle. It started off with Hitler trying to bomb RAF airfields in the southeast of England. This tactic changed then to bombing cities, but essentially Hitler failed to destroy the RAF. And in total, the Luftwaffe lost around 1,800 planes in the Battle of Britain. This was a big loss, and Hitler knew that he would have to postpone Operation Sea Lion, as it was known, which was the invasion of Britain, indefinitely. And of course, at that point, he switched his attention, like we're going to do, up towards Russia. And that leads me on to contribution 3. On the 1st of June 1941, Hitler ordered Operation Barbarossa, the attack on the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union were unprepared. They weren't expecting it. It was a surprise attack. The German tanks roamed over the Russian countryside. They were able to advance massive. They were able to take massive ground. They closed in on Moscow and, of course, Stalingrad towards the south, 2 major strategic strong points. During this time, between June 1941, pretty much to the end of the war, the British provided a huge help to the Russians in providing them with raw material, weapons, food, various other things in what was known as the Arctic Convoys. They were sailing from Scotland, north of Norway, and almost, if you imagine, here's Britain. I'm not going to draw a map, but you've got Britain over here, Russia over here, and they literally kind of went over the top round there. And obviously the Arctic conditions over here were terrible, as you can see in this picture. They're all wearing face masks, they've all got big overcoats on. These guys are, of course, the British Merchant Navy. Often not talked about, and, you know, perhaps as much as they should be, as British heroes of World War II. Lots of merchant navy men lost their lives, especially in the Arctic convoy. If the Arctic convoy had not existed, if Britain had not supplied weapons to the Soviet Union, you know, to give you an example, the British supplied 3,000 Hurricane fighters planes. This was absolutely vital to Russia at this time. They were being pushed back, they were on the back foot. America, especially in the early stages, was yet to get involved, certainly in Europe. So it really came down to the British to keep Russia in the war. And if it hadn't have been for their contribution, maybe Russia would have surrendered too. The next one is this one over here, and you may guess from the bottom where this is. This is part of the North African campaign, and it's in Egypt. And this was part of a major battle called the Battle of El Alamein, which took place, as it says here, in August 1942. It was fought between German and Italian forces against British and with Commonwealth support. So, for example, the Australians played a key role in the Battle of El Alamein in supporting the offensive. Why was the Battle of El Alamein so crucial? Well, it was more about morale than anything else. It was the first time that the Germans had actually lost. Yeah, the first battle they'd actually lost in the whole of war. It was an offensive by Britain. It was an attack. It was successful. It was massively successful, and it stopped the threat to the Suez Canal. It stopped the threat to the Persian Gulf from Germany. It allowed Britain to start the long battle to push the Germans out of North Africa, which they eventually did. In my opinion, the Battle of El Alamein was a turning point in World War II, and in the most part, it was fought by British infantry. And the final one is down at the bottom here. Sure you can guess what this is. It's obviously D-Day, 6th of June, 1944, D-Day. Huge event in World War II. The contributors were Britain, America and Canada. Of course, ever since Dunkirk, France has been under occupation by Germany, and D-Day was important because it was the Allies, the Western Allies, way of getting France back, of liberating France. Britain played a massive role in this. They had 2 beaches out of the 5 landing beaches at Sword and Gold beaches, and they were very successful in their attack, and they spearheaded the British forces then going into the Battle of Normandy, obviously assisting the United States in the Battle of Normandy and pushing Germany eventually, of course, all the way back inside the borders of Germany. And that pretty much concludes my very short talk on the top 5 most vital British contributions in World War II. I believe that without these 5 contributions, the war could have ended very, very differently.